Shalom, 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 family. Saint Salem coming back at you with another Sirach Sundays. Right? All praises to the Most High God, Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. And we're going to get into the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 30, verse 1. This chapter is talking about a father disciplining the child. And, it goes to some deep stuff between a relationship, a son and a father. Right? Verse 1. He that loveth his son causeth him often to feel the rod, that he may have joy of him in the end. Right? If you chastise your son at an early age, you will have joy with him at an end. In this society, Esau, so-called white man, he'll tell you, they'll come take your children if you discipline them. They call it abuse. But the Bible say, you cause your son to feel the rod, you may have joy in the end. And so-called black people, they know that anyway. They discipline their children different. There's only certain cultures and certain nations who think that, you're supposed to talk it out with your child and put them in timeout. Well, that's not in the scriptures. That's not biblical. You cause your son often to feel the rod. You have joy in him in the end, meaning he'll become a upstanding man. If you don't tolerate his bullshit, then he won't be a clown. He won't be a fool when he becomes a man. You understand? You can't play games with your son. Okay? Verse 2. He that chastiseth his son shall have joy in him, and shall rejoice of him among his acquaintance. Right? Now, father go amongst his guys and his buddies, like, yeah, man, my son is doing this, my son is doing that. He's proud. He's not proud, but he has joy. He rejoices in the things that his son is doing. Verse 3. He that teacheth his son grieveth the enemy, and before his friends he shall rejoice of him. Okay, so he that teacheth his son grieveth the enemy. What's that talking about? The other nations, they take crafty counsel on the so-called black man and keeping his and trying to keep the seed, the bloodline. They trying to taint the bloodline and keep us from being fruitful. The same thing that Pharaoh did in Egypt, right? He was saying if it's a boy, then kill it. If it's a girl, then let it stay alive. Right? Why was that? Because the man carries the seed. He wanted to taint the bloodline, get rid of the Israelite man, and impregnate the Israelite woman with Egyptian seed. That's what Pharaoh wanted to do. Same thing today, man. Same thing Esau doing today with Planned Parenthood, But the Bible says if you teach your son, you grieve the enemy. You raise up an upstanding Israelite man, a young man, in the knowledge and the truth, and teach him the faith and the laws of the Most High. You grieve the enemy. And before his friends he shall rejoice of him. Though his father die, yet he is as though he were not dead, for he hath left one behind that is like himself. Right? So even if once your father go to the grave, you carry on his name, man. Verse 5. While he lived, he saw and rejoiced in him. And when he died, he was not sorrowful. Verse 6. He left behind him an avenger against his enemies, and one that shall requite kindness to his friends. Right? So, and this is one of the key points that I wanted to get. Right? It's talking about a father and his son. But it says that while he lived, he saw and rejoiced in him. And when he died, he was not sorrowful. Then verse 6 says, he left behind him an avenger against his enemies. So a father will, whoever your enemies is, those my enemies as well. And if your father going to the grave, but his enemy's not dead, then those enemies are your enemies. And we gonna get it. But King David, King David said the same thing to Solomon. He had certain guys on the earth, like, I'm not going to kill them, but, you know, I'm getting old and it's my time to die right now. And I want you to do it. Take care of this business. And we going to get it. But he said he left behind him an avenger against his enemies and one that shall requite kindness to his friends. So let's get that account on King David. Right. Got it open. Con. So this is First Kings, the First Kings, the second chapter, King James Version. First Kings 2:1. Now the days of David drew nigh that he should die, and he charged Solomon his son, saying, I go the way of all the earth. Be thou strong, therefore, and show thyself a man. Right now, the same thing that Sirach was just hinting towards, the same thing that the book of Ecclesiasticus was just talking about. Teach your son to be an upstanding man, and you'll grieve the enemy. He's saying, it's my time to go. I want you to be strong and show yourself a man. Verse 3, keep the charge of the Lord thy God, to walk in his ways, to keep his statutes and his commandments and his judgments and his testimonies, as it is written in the law of Moses, that thou mayest prosper in all that thou doest, and whithersoever thou turnest thyself. Right. So he didn't say go your own way and follow your goals and do this and that. He said no. Keep the laws of the Most High God, man. Do everything that's written in the book of the laws of Moses, and that's how you're gonna prosper. So, just touching on the relationship of a father and a son, King David put forth the same thing that Sirach put forth. Right? Verse 4, that the Lord may continue his word which he spake concerning me, saying, if thy children take heed to their way, to walk before me in truth with all their heart, with all their soul, there shall not fail thee, said he, a man on the throne of Israel. Right? So King David saying, if you keep the laws and walk in the ways of the Most High, then the Most High keep the promise that he made with me, which was, and we all know the promise that the Lord made with David, man. The seed that'll come out of David, which is ultimately Yahweh Shai. But he said, you're gonna sit on the throne, man. And it was already set in stone that Solomon would sit on the throne, man. Because the scepter shall not depart from Judah, right? Until Shiloh come. But verse 5, and here's the point, right? It says, moreover, thou knowest also what Joab the son of Zeruiah did to me, and what he did to the two captains of the host of Israel, unto Abner the son of Ner, and unto Amasa the son of Jether, whom he slew, and shed the blood of war in peace, and put the blood of war upon his girdle that was about his loins, and in his shoes that were on his feet. Do therefore according to thy wisdom, and let not his hoar head go down to the grave in peace. You see, so David, he on his deathbed, man. He old and ready to die, but he withering away. But he telling his son, look, I got some enemies I want you to take care of, man. Don't let this man die without letting him know that I know what he did, Joab, the son of Zeruiah, what he did to me. Salakia. What he did to me and what he did to the two captains. So not only did he cross King David, but he killed two of the captains of Israel, man. And David said he got to go for that. And this was in the time of peace. So he said this was, he tried to act like it was in the time of war, but nobody was into it. He said, "Do therefore according to thy wisdom, and let not his hoar head go down." Hoary head, and the scriptures just mean gray hair, right? Let not his hoar head go down to grave in peace. Don't let him die off. Nah, man, he gotta feel the wrath of the Lord. And I believe verse 8 is another one. And behold, thou hast with thee Shimei the son of Gera, a Benjamite of Bahurim, which cursed me with a grievous curse in the day when I went to Mahanaim. But he came down, to meet me at Jordan, and I swear to him by the Lord, saying, I will not put thee to death with the sword. Now therefore hold not him guiltless, for thou art a wise man, and knowest what thou oughtest to do unto him. But his hoar head bring thou down to the grave with blood. Right? So David promised to the Lord that he won't slay this particular enemy. But he said, I want you, you're a wise man. You know how to do it. You know how to move. Get rid of this guy. You know? So just bouncing off that point that Sirach made about how your father's enemies is your enemies. So let's go back. Verse 6, he left behind him an avenger against his enemies, and one that shall requite kindness to his friends. He that maketh too much of his son shall bind up his wounds, and his bowels will be troubled at every cry. And horse not broken becometh headstrong, and a child left to himself will be willful. Conquer thy child, and he shall make thee afraid. Play with him, and he will bring thee to heaviness. Right? So you joke around and you clown around, but you never sit them down, teach them the laws. Never sit them down and you never teach them the wisdom and the knowledge of the Lord, man. And it's a and that's a curse. It's a curse in Israel today. A lot of single mother homes, a lot of and if the father is there, a lot of strife and envy. Uh, or you got these guys who just play all day, man. And never make their son upstanding men. Teach their son to be righteous according to the laws of the Most High. So play with him, and he will bring thee to heaviness. Meaning what? You're gonna be stressed out, man. Your name, you're gonna have a blot on your name, man. A blemish. He's gonna embarrass you on the gate. Verse 10. Laugh not with him, lest thou have sorrow with him, unless thou nag thy teeth in the end. Give him no liberty in his youth, and wink not at his follies. Don't wink at his follies, man. Get it, make it right immediately. Give him no liberty in his youth. That means from the youth up, from childhood up. Verse 12. Bow down his neck while he is young, and beat him on the sides while he is a child, lest he wax stubborn and be disobedient unto thee, so bring sorrows to thine heart. Right? So you gotta, of course when he get out of the line, you rough him up a little bit. I didn't make that up. The scripture said that. Bow down his neck while he is young, and beat him on the sides while he is a child. Not for the love of it, but just unless he wax stubborn and disobedient, right? We don't want to, because what the law say, honor thy mother and father. So a stubborn child, that's not honorable. That's not honoring your mother and father. Verse 13, chastise thy son and hold him to labor, lest his lewd behavior be an offense unto thee. So holding him to labor, I want to touch on that. A lot of young brothers idle. They don't have, no summer job, no don't know how to cut grass, don't know how to fix cars, don't know how to cut hair, right? You have to hold him to labor. Oftentimes in the ancient world, whatever your father was, you were, according to the trade. Like if you had a plumber or a mechanic, you was gonna do the same thing, right? So you had to hold him to labor, unless his lewd behavior been offense unto thee. What is a lewd behavior? He's profane, he's idle, he has nothing to do. So he get to robbing, stealing, pushing people over. Better is the poor being sound and strong of constitution than a rich man that is afflicted in his body. Now that's going into something else. But really just wanted to touch on the relationship between the father and the son. So that was that. On that, I give call halal Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai. Hope this lesson was edifying. And shalom.